Barrels to another edition of the ComicCorp podcast, your only place that you ever need to go to hear us laugh about the Batwoman. Oh boy. I feel like singing one of them old shanties, those old, like, Southtown, like, Camptown races sing this song, Doo-Dah, Doo-Dah. I don't know why. I'm just laughing so hard at the failure of this show. Not only is it as bad of a rated show as Supergirl, it's even more poorly acted. And it's not that Melissa Benoist is a bad actress. It's just that every time she does something, she always does the confused golden retriever face, and I'm just like, is that your only move? Is that your blue steel? Can you do something else other than be bewildered?
Yeah, I mean, she's adult. She's gorgeous. She's everything you want that
Right,
character to
like a
be.
golden retriever. Who's a good girl?
Jinx, goddamn it. But yeah, man. I mean, we talked about this, ad nauseum. They cast a lot of good actors a lot of times. It's just that they don't always get the material to meet their level of ability in terms of acting wise. Of course, that's the opposite when it comes to the topic we're going to get to with a particular actors. But yeah, they don't always do those actors favors creatively, specifically with the amount of hours they have to put in to put that stuff out.
I'm Chad Porto. He's Marcus Green. We're talking comics, and we're starting off with the Batwoman. The Batwoman. If Melissa Benoist is a golden retriever, Ruby Rose is one of those alley cats that just hisses at you all the time. Obnoxious little thing. But this isn't a bash Ruby Rose hour, because we got some good content to talk about, like that fucking Stargirl. Although Stargirl has me all sorts of worried.
Yeah, I'm just Chad's in the corner shaking. Don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up.
I'm just sitting there going, it's good. It's gonna be a good show. It's gonna be a good show. I don't know what.
HBO drop.
Like, with everything going on, like, DC's been in the shits for like 2 years, right? Like, the changing of the guard from, having all those good writers on their comics to having all those terrible writers on their comics. Like, we know what's up. We're not stupid. So it's one of those things where I'm just kind of the mindset that with everything that DC's done, I'm just expecting more fuckery. But yet, Stargirl's first episode was solid. They're finally recasting Ruby Rose. Hopefully, there's a change in the dynamic in the dialogue and the presentation of Batwoman as well, because one of the biggest issues that we all had with the Batwoman trailer was the just blatant disregard for any type of male viewer or straight viewer, and it's very much just so pandered. And here's the thing: pandering doesn't work. Like, you can sell anything you want to anyone you want, but if it feels inauthentic, people ain't going to show up. And if you make something that is purposely antagonistic to a portion of the audience, they're damn sure not going to show up. So it's kind of one of those things where Batman was doomed to fail from the start, and I'm not surprised. But then all of a sudden, Stargirl comes out, and it's everything Batwoman should have been. Right? It's so good. And then, if our week couldn't have gotten better off of a really good fucking Stargirl pilot, we then get goddamn news that the Snyder Cut doesn't only exist, but is coming out. And now I'm just like, I gotta find a way to stay alive for another year.
Oh, don't we all?
Oh, and by the by, Darkseid's gonna be in it. What?
Yeah, I mean, and I saw somebody bitching about that ahead of, yeah, man, you just taking the legs out from under Ava DuVernay. Like, no, the freak they not. Look, man, this this gonna be what it's gonna be. Ava's thing is gonna be what it's gonna be. But like, I just want to like just throw something in their face because it's just so funny. Like, just like, so I hope some people document this particular journey from start to finish of how this all went down, like how they did with like they're doing with the Undertaker series on the network, their last ride deal. Cause this has been insane, this particular ride, and the way that the fans have been like this underswell of power, and now they've been anointed in a way. It's crazy.
Yeah, the fans have to be kind of. I don't know. I don't even want to say the fans. We have to be given so much credit for this thing existing because so many of us embraced it. And again, this is what dude. You and I say this every goddamn week. It seems like you cannot, in the time that you see something, decree it great or terrible in the scope of fandom. You know, there are some things you can instantly know, like the Stargirl pilot was good. Will Stargirl, the series, be good? We don't know. We need to see how it all plays out. But when Batman v Superman came out, it was a well done, well made, well crafted, well written story. But people said it was too dark or it was too boring. And then all of a sudden, you see a dramatic shift after that movie comes out with how Marvel starts to do their tones for their films. And then all of a sudden, TV shows start to take that kind of approach, that a little bit more real, a little bit more gritty, less humorous tone starts to be injected in these films. And the tones that end up getting humorous ends up getting dogpiled. Like, how many people thought that Fat Thor was going to be hilarious, and then all of a sudden it comes out and everyone's ripping it apart? And the only reason people didn't rip it apart harder is because the entire movie's plot just didn't make any goddamn sense. Because I say this every fucking week, Endgame's plot doesn't work. It's a broken film. And I think that's the only reason why people aren't bitching about Fat Thor as often as they should be. Because, one, it's a goddamn embarrassment. Two, it's just one of those situations where you obviously see that the tastes of the audience were affected by Dawn of Justice. Not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense. So when they, totally, shifted gears and tried to do that 180 with Justice League, where they're like, well, Zack Snyder's daughter, I think she committed suicide or died young. I don't remember how she passed away. But, that rocked Snyder, and I'm sure that, kind of curtailed some of his creativity and desire, but he was still committed to finishing the project. But they decided to use that as an out and bring in Joss Whedon, and Joss Whedon shot half the movie and made it just a total smudge of Whedonness. And this was right at the time when Whedon still had some clout after Age of Ultron, so it was seen as a big win for Justice League, but then it ended up being just the biggest pile of nonsense ever. And you knew it. Watching the film, you knew it was two parts of a different movie. So now that we got all this going on, we got the Snyder Cut coming through, it's just, the thing that I find most hilarious about all this, Marcus, is that you have guys who are like, well, people who are pushing for the Snyder Cut shouldn't be rewarded because they're a toxic fandom. What? Sorry, I got hit in the face by stupidity. Sometimes that makes me pause. I couldn't believe what I was hearing when people were saying that, Marcus. I'm like, what? Wait, what? 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 Give me a beer. Give me a hell yeah. Give me a what? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But now that we have it, now that this is really coming out, it's coming out next year on HBO Max. Snyder's going to go to work. I'm truly optimistic, not just at this film, because I've fallen into a mindset that Snyder's work will generally hit with me. I still don't like Sucker Punch, but that's because I think the concept of the script didn't work for me. The whole, we're going to, have this mental asylum jumping into battle scenes idea, which is, I was like, that's dumb. But most of what he does is really well done because he does a lot of practical effects and he, utilizes a really interesting color scope that very few directors do, and it adds a certain personality to his films. And I, it's one of those things like I didn't realize how much of a Snyder fan I really was until I saw Dawn of Justice. I was like, this is fantastic. So I think this movie's gonna be great, but I also think it might also allow people to reconnect the universe again, because if this version of Justice League does gangbusters, I think you'll end up seeing a renewed effort to do more of the Snyderverse, and we'll get more to what this means. But we got to focus on the Batwoman right now. Ruby Rose is out allegedly because she was a pain in the ass on set. She didn't like the long days, and maybe the fandom was too toxic, which is hilarious because it wasn't that it was straight dudes going at her, It was the LGBT community that was being, quote, unquote, too toxic and going after Ruby Rose. So that makes me laugh because Ruby Rose doesn't identify as a lesbian. I guess she's non-binary. Is I guess that's her shtick. I don't know. So like fans were automatically like, she's not even a real lesbian. And I'm just like, this is the least of your problems with this show, people. And you know the whole marketing ploy was just so fucking intrinsically based in fucking off with having any type of male viewership, especially when she opened up with the biggest shot across the bow by saying, I need this suit redesigned, and Lucius Fox was like, or Lou Fox was like, that suit's perfect, and she goes, it will be when it fits a woman. Like, once you heard that, you knew what kind of fuckery this was going to be. And the ratings have been in the trash ever since. You know, it's as poorly rated as Supergirl. And those shows are at cancellation numbers. I don't see them getting a third and sixth season, respectively, for those shows. Or sixth. What season is Supergirl on, Marcus? Fifth? I seem to have lost Marcus momentarily.
Yes, six. Yeah,
Six.
No, six. Yeah.
They're heading into their sixth.
Yeah, six.
Okay. I don't see Supergirl getting a seventh and Batwoman a third season. I think both those shows get canceled, especially with Stargirl's possible success. I don't know what the ratings are yet for Stargirl. We can look that up here in a second. And the fact that they are launching, is it Superman and Lois or Lois and Superman? Because I feel like it's Lois and Superman just because of Berlanti. I don't know which one it is. All I know is most of those episodes are going to just be Lois Lane barking orders at Superman and him obeying like some labradoodle. Some goddamn deer in the headlights labradoodle. A superdoodle, if you will. I like puppies. Dogs are fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, I mean, I think they have run into several issues. And like I said, they got some good actors and good plot ideas. They don't always execute them the best. They just was juggling too much this season, and they didn't really, specifically one of their main plot lines really didn't get fleshed out well at all. But I mean, there's always a lot of potential with that show. It's just like by the time you get to, like with 5 seasons in, if you haven't settled into a groove by now, like stuff kind of need to be reshuffled, or like you said, maybe, we need to, rethink where things are going. Like with the Flash, and I know you briefly talked about some of the things you didn't necessarily like this season, but I think they did a great job. Eric Wallace did, the new showrunner, of getting that show out of its comfort zone in terms of changing up certain dynamics and certain ways. Like the season went, like they cut it, and I think he called it chapters or whatever.
I do like that because we've seen that before where shows would go kind of in chunks of 3 or 4 across the season. Like you'll have a 6-episode arc, a 5-episode arc, a 7-episode arc, and it'll be very tight and contained, but will allow you to jump in throughout the season without having to do too much work, but will also continue a story in a way that it will bring you in without making you feel like you've lost anything. So if that's what you're describing this season as, then I think that's a brilliant way to go.
Yeah.
But Marcus, for me, the show's dead because we're the Flash.
Well, thankfully they've gotten away from saying that. But I mean, at this point, if that's been ruined for you, you can't go back. I completely understand it.
Damage is done. Marcus, you had a blogger, a Tumblr, right, telling the fastest man alive how to do his job.
A Tumblr, right? I love it.
That's like a McDonald's worker telling a surgeon how to do heart surgery. Oh, cool. You've seen ER 1,000 times and Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy. Cool. Don't mean shit until you've done it. Don't mean shit.
Like I've watched however many seasons of I know what I'm doing.
With that George Clooney. Fucking Christ.
But yeah, man, I get it. Like I said, I think these shows have done a lot. I mean, besides the people who are just blindly still following these shows, mostly the CW faithful who only care about the gender politics, and then identity politics, and just the shit that I loathe. But a lot of people have waned off these shows, specifically getting back to Batwoman. Like they have significantly dropped off And that says a lot. I know a lot of people like, well, it's number 3 on the network. I'm like, that's not really saying much.
Well, ratings are down
Um,
across the board for every network.
yeah,
That's not a defense for Supergirl and Batwoman, by the way. Um,
yeah,
that's more of a point of emphasis that let's see what those numbers, because they will not improve because both those shows have been maligned for years. Let's see how those shows do when things stabilize. Because I really don't think, because like I'm going off of specifically sports metrics at the moment, and I'm looking at
yeah.
like the draft did really well, but only had like 5 million viewers, and I'm like, that's really well. What? And then like AEW Dynamite is doing like 800,000, which isn't too far off from like their peak, which was like 1.2 million, but it is down. And I wonder if when things start to calm down in 6-12 months, if those numbers go up at all, or if those viewers are gone forever. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens with Supergirl and Batwoman. And I've said before, there's a good chance that some of these shows that went on hiatus early or ended early don't come back at all due to economics of this whole situation. And if that means no Supergirl or Batwoman, oh no.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, we not advocating, like you said, this is not a bashing hour of Ruby Rose or these shows. Like whether it be wrestling, we talk about um, comics or just anything in general entertainment. We don't want to see anybody lose a job,
No.
specifically right now. But you got to call stuff out for what it is, and you can't just you know ignore blatant obvious stuff like that. Batwoman is a piss poor show. I mean, again, it's one of those things where things in the plot are only as relevant um or as they need to be for that week. A lot of ass pulls in the show. I mean, just the clip I showed Chad alone about her stopping a damn train
With
with
a motorcycle.
a motorcycle, and then somebody just whisked that away with suspension of disbelief. Oh, not this type of shit. Like, you got to, like, it's simple physics with a lot of this stuff. Like, even stuff on the Flash they've explained better with how they do stuff with speed. And but this was just, that's ridiculous. Like, they pull far better stuff off in Daredevil, um, both the movie and the series, than what we're getting with this show. And again, besides piss poor writing, the fighting is okay. I mean, they had James Bamford direct the episode, but again, all that credit goes to the damn stunt double, because when you don't see her face, you know it's a stunt double. And the girl just can't act. I'm sorry, she can't lead a show. She don't have the ability. She might be able to do smaller stuff, like she did some stuff in with the last John Wick,
Mm-hmm.
but that's more her lane. Like, stuff she did in the Meg and John Wick and other stuff, she cannot lead a show. And when she's against an actress like Rachel Scarston, who damn near put the entire show on her back, and probably got overused for the entirety of the first season's run, it says a lot. I mean, if it was up to me at this point, because I don't know how much to get the casting of different actors is going to do, but we'll see. I just pay Rachel Scarston the salary for a new actress and just have her pull double duty.
Have her be Batwoman and the main villain.
Exactly.
So, for Ruby Rose, this is going to be the most hilarious thing in the statements of history in terms of hilarity. Ruby Rose was hired for the lesbian sex appeal. She was hired because she looks good, and CW knew she would attract gay female viewers. Usually you see this with dudes or hot chicks on shows for dudes. So to see it here is just, hey, we're finally inclusionary.
Look, man, we don't do the shaming here or whatever the perception of that is now.
I mean, I'll shame it. I mean, I will. No, I will. But like, if you tell me like you like dressing up as like a dog and having sex with people dressed up as cats, I'm gonna shame the fuck out of you. That's weird.
It's
If
I
you like the
get it,
tuna and not the hot dog, that's fine. There's nothing
fine.
wrong with that.
Yeah, like I like Spam. I'll eat potted meat if it's all I got, but I'm not picking it first.
Right?
Oh, I'm not picking potted meat first, just not doing it. But yeah, and I get it, the beauty in his eyes, the beholder, yada yada yada, all that. But she don't have that either. Like there's nothing about her aura or anything. Like, look, the Chad is by no means a fan of, as he stated numerous times, of the evolution of the Sarah Lance of it all. That don't
Everyone,
mean he don't recognize Katie Lawson and go, ugh.
listen, if Katie Lott showed up to my house and like, hey, you want to hang out? I'm already halfway naked out the door going, wait, hang out? What do you mean? Because I'm like half naked. I'm outside. Like, you mean like, we got to figure out what you mean because like I'm so
Like,
confused right now.
all Chad would have to be like, text me no shows this week. I'm like, huh? What? What's going on? And all he'd have to do is text me a picture of her shadow. Yep, I get it.
I
I
mean,
get it.
accurate. You get a call from me. I'm in the hospital. What happened? I went to the hospital. How come? Dehydration and a groin pull. Yup.
Like, you know, that time I told you I got attacked by a falcon? Like, yeah, this time it was by a white canary. And it was
Uh,
but,
the falcon attacked my head. The canary attacked my head. That falcon story is true, people. I swear to God. Falcon was like 4 feet above my head with its talons outstretched. I'm like, holy God, Jesus, it's coming for me. This is how I die. I tumbled in a goddamn church parking lot going, ah! What did I do, God? I didn't do nothing. So when it comes to Ruby Rose, she's fine. She was put in Orange and New Black because Orange and New Black was really popular among gay women. She gained a big following there, and they try to, bring that following over to the Batwoman. It'd be no different than if they announced that. Who's that one supermodel who did the Cat Daddy? What's her name? Married Justin Verlander. God damn it! I gotta look this up. Jesus, hang on. Justin. Nope, that's not how you spell Justin. Justin. Nope, that's not how you spell it. Justin Verlander wife. Hey, there you go, Google. You can finish things. Kate Upton. That's who I'm thinking of. That's like saying that you got Kate Upton to replace Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. No one thinks Kate Upton has gotten that role because she's a good actress. She got that role because she's going to look super fierce in that little outfit. So that's why I think Ruby Rose got Batwoman. When it comes to Batwoman's future, however, I have just a bonkers-ass idea. I don't know how expensive it is to just rebrand a show and change the title. Nothing else. Just change the title. But what if you open up the start of season 2 with Batwoman getting killed, and then Barbara Gordon rolls into town and takes over the mantle and becomes Batgirl, and Luke Fox becomes, what the fuck was his name?
Batwing?
Well, yeah, Batwing. I got confused with him and the other newer sidekick, but he goes by Signal, which is just a terrible name. Yeah, have Luke Fox become Batwing. Maybe you bring in the new kid whose name just escapes me and make him Signal, and maybe you bring in Jason Todd or Tim Drake to be Robin, and you make this like Batgirl and the Outlaws or something like that. Or maybe you just have Barbara Gordon take over the mantle of Batwoman, and you rebrand the show Batwoman and the Outlaws. And then that way you could maybe have even a little bit of the Jefferson Pierce crossoverness on occasion, where like one of the daughters show up because Black Lightning is a member of the Outlaws. So, am I thinking of the Outlaws? Who am I thinking of? No, the Outsiders. Is it the Outsiders? Batman and the Outsiders? I don't know. But what would you think about rebranding the show and getting away from Batwoman as a character and going in a different direction completely? It's the Outsiders, not the Outlaws. Batman and the Outsiders. So just rebrand the show Batwoman and the Outsiders. What do you think of that idea, Marcus? Would that appease you? Would that appeal to you?
I mean, I think at this point anything drastic would appeal to me because, like I said, they have relied so heavily on Rachel Skarsten to carry so much of the acting stuff. Like, look, they got Luke Fox, but he's barely a Cisco at this point. Her sister is whatever, and they got two other characters. Obviously, her alleged love interest, and then they got the the daughter of Alfred, but they're basically just there to justify having more than two LGBTQ characters on there. Um, and yeah, the dad. I mean, Gotham PD like is like 6 steps down from the stormtroopers. The Crows have way more leniency and power than they should, but they're also only as relevant as the plot needs them to be a week. They need a drastic change. At this point, like you said, a Batgirl, a Batwoman, and the Outsiders, or something needs to happen. They need a major shakeup, but I think in their minds, unfortunately, all they probably feel like they need to do is cast another gay actress, and she has to be gay first, because they don't want that backlash, because actors can't act as if they're gay. Um, so they're gonna start with that, and then try to go from there. But I mean, for me, if they keep them same writers, nothing's gonna work. So.
I feel like it's not even the writers or the gay actress or anything like that. It's the concept of the show with the production company that is producing it. Berlanti, ever since like season 2, like finale of Arrow, has had a dogmatic mindset on how he wants to portray superheroes. And it's generic, it's repetitive, and it appeals to the absolute lowest number of fans. And people don't seem to grasp the idea that you shouldn't be making something that excludes a majority of your fan base. Then there's people who are like, well, if you make something that appeases everyone, you end up appeasing no one. And I'm just saying, well, all right, if that's the case, then why don't you worry about appeasing the most number of fans then? And that's something Berlanti doesn't want to do, and that's the reason why his shows that were once the toast of comicdom are now maligned. And we're sitting here looking forward to The Boys more than we are than the next Berlanti show. So I think that's where part of the problem lies, and I think that if you want to salvage the DC universe as it is with the Arrowverse, this is the way you got to go. But personally, I wouldn't mind them canceling all the Arrowverse shows and launching a new universe. That's my thought. Now it could be connected, like because the multiversity and all that, and we established that all the shows are one, but just focus on a different universe.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, for me, maybe I'm just, I'll take it easy on them, but I feel like they could probably keep like a Black Lightning or Stargirl, which we'll get to.
Well, aren't they on different Earths anyway?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, luckily, yeah, Stargirl has been shown to be on Earth too, and I mean, really, what they really did, I mean, I guess the best thing to come out of Crisis, because they bungled that. I don't care what anybody say, that was not handled well at all.
Yeah, the
They
story was
had
not great.
moments do not equate however many episode crossover, a good one anyway. So what they did do was establish that basically almost everything was canon. The movies and the series that we love from DC Universe. Shout out to Doom Patrol is on the way. Um, so yeah, if you could keep those separate and not, because that's another thing too that they've conditioned their fans to. Everybody got to be close or crossing over, and it's like they can't even get stuff on some of these shows by themselves right. You think bringing somebody else over gonna make it better? I mean, bringing such and such go cross over with Stargirl. Let this young woman do her thing and let them flex with all the JSA swag before they get ruined by some nonsensical plot of a show that not even executing its own season plot line right. Like, but they just want to see stuff together. I think that's why those crossovers get rooted for, regardless of nonsensical garbage plot execution, because they just like seeing people together.
Yeah, and it also takes away from the fact that a lot of these shows have failed to maintain the excitement. So this is another way to goose that excitement. It's like we see it all the time in pro wrestling. You make the big announcement that someone's debuting before they debut, and then you goose the numbers a little bit. But then after 2 weeks, all of a sudden they're just they're just like everyone else. Same idea, just in the comic form. So. Good luck to Ruby Rose on her next project, whatever that is, and whoever takes over the mantle of Batwoman, good luck. The show needs an entire overhaul. I wouldn't even be mad if they just canceled Batwoman now and did season 6 of Supergirl with what is that old moniker?
The Brave and the Bold.
Yeah,
Or something.
just do like Brave and the Bold, Supergirl, Brave and the Bold, and now
Oh,
Batwoman's a main cast member of Supergirl.
yeah, World's Finest, which they dropped the first time the two of them crossed over.
Yeah, that's what it is. Not Brave and the Bold. World's Finest. Do Supergirl World's Finest and have Supergirl and Batwoman on the same show, and then just cancel Batwoman. The thing that also needs to end up happening eventually is it's great to get all these secondary characters, but an interview with Simon Pegg on Star Trek is the perfect kind of statement towards comics in general and how they're adapted. Simon Pegg said that, while he wants to do a fourth Star Trek film, he feels that Star Trek is best utilized in serial television, in episodic, episode television series. Having a running plot line or doing episodic where every episode is self-contained, whatever. That's the truth, though, for comic books. You can go all these movies all you want, but at the end of the day, these characters work better in a long-form platform. We talked about before, like, how many wasted storylines for Captain America did we have to give up to get him in 9 movies? Like, that's not even an entire season worth of television. And it took us 10 years to get that. If they had done more TV series with main characters like Captain America, then I feel like we would have gotten more bang for our buck, and I think things would have been more satisfying. But instead, they got the big money payouts and the cheap fandom, as I like to call it, the guys who only show up for the big movies. And they got their money, but the real fans ended up losing a lot of potential story arcs and storylines and moments for cash grab movies. And I feel like TV shows like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman should eventually happen, because that's how you could get fans back into it, because you've been giving us the B's and C's. Let's get a few of the A's. And maybe then you can rejuvenate and revitalize the marketplace. And that's what they're doing with Superman. But that content, that entire concept's already hanging on the edge of things, because, we're not big fans of the new Lois Lane. And we're not a big fan of Cuckold Man. So, I don't know. I don't know if Berlanti knows who his audience is and who's going to be showing up for these shows. I don't even think he cares. He's getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to make shitty TV shows. So, here we are.
I mean, the perception is now that he can't miss, and because the network is basically standing on the shoulders of a lot of these superhero shows. Like we talked about, like, to me, best show that they got is All American to me, and then stuff like Black Light. And I'm not just saying that because they're primarily African American shows. Those are
racist.
Knew it was coming.
Black
community.
community.
My shield. Black community.
Black community.
But those are some of the best written shows. And I mean, again, stuff like Riverdale and Dynasty gets to stay on. Whereas you talked about like a good show. What was that?
Valor.
That show, Valor and other stuff like that gets cut because it don't cater to the politics of it all. Or we got 5 people to ship. The individuals don't matter because we don't. They're thinly written. But if we put them together, relationship sandwich. So like again, a lot of it is their fan base because they don't demand better, and when you get stuff, geared towards a narrative where it's like they feel like the CW is pulling off serial wise what Marvel did on the film wise, I'm like, I wouldn't conflate the two. Obviously, I think there's a conversation to potentially be had if somebody wants to do it, but I don't think it's comparable. But yeah, the perception is he can't miss, and then you just adding stuff on, and I can only imagine the backlash if they just outright drop Batwoman, which they probably should do, because in the fandom's mind, it's because it was primarily led by the first LGBT woman or whatever. I'm like, first off, y'all just gonna pretend like Katie Lott's character don't exist.
Of course.
Because she is the show now. So again, narrative, chosen narrative, and then. Like, there is such a thing. Like, you don't get to call a show good just because there are representation of color or LGBT. That does not a good show make. I don't know why it's so hard for a lot of these people to understand. I get it. You want to see yourselves. I want to see myself, Chad, with like more Italian representation. But if it sucks, it sucks.
To be fair, I'm not so big on the Italian representation, but I do believe the other half of my representation needs to be represented, and that's the Muppet representation. I feel like we Muppets have not been given our proper due in society. Short
And,
and proud, bitches.
and to your credit, with that last Muppet show or last couple of Muppet shows they had were quality shows.
Mm-hmm. I like the last
Quality.
one.
Yeah, the last one was really good. They just didn't get. I don't know if it was the network, they didn't get the back and the proper promotion, or it was the time slot, but that show was actually quite hilarious and a real nice upgrade from what we gotten from them in the past. And I don't know, man, just certain stuff, man. It's always the good stuff. Like, we watch stuff like Swamp Thing and Powerless and The Tick, and other shows get the unnecessary boot because for a litany of reasons, but mostly because they just wouldn't give them a chance. Whereas stuff that's like blatantly egregious a lot of times, like a lot of stuff with Dynasty, it's like, how could you, a Riverdale, which the actors even make fun of at this point, and it's like, who is getting sucked off to keep this stuff airing? Like, it's ridiculous.
Speaking of Berlanti. Oh!
Super
All right.
Kick!
all right. Let's move on to a show we actually enjoyed. Let's review Stargirl now. So we open up on Stargirl with Bruce Springsteen's Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Fun little factoid about yours truly. When I was like 2 years old, I wasn't a big talker. Look what happens when you wish for things. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And a lot of people thought I might be autistic because I wasn't speaking. I was nonverbal. But I started to sing along to Santa Claus is Coming to Town all the time it came on. And it kind of gave people this feeling that I was going to be okay. And it's a song that's kind of always resonated with me. And it's kind of one of those like little cheeky things that whenever I hear it, I get happy. So like I'm like trying not to fall asleep because like I haven't slept, a whole 8 hours in fucking 9 days, and I'm just like fighting off the goblins and the gremlins and whatever kind of weird shit happens when you're sleep deprived. And I'm watching the start of this, and it's a great opening shot with this classic car zooming down this, metropolitan area with the bridges and the overpass and all that. And I start hearing that familiar jingle of Christmas bells. I'm like, wait, what? And then it's fucking Bruce Springsteen. And I was like, yeah, I'm awake. Let's do this.
That may be the most adorable story you've ever told.
Thank you. And then like the second song they pick when Stargirl, I can't remember her name. I want to call her Breck because Breck is such a cool first name for a chick. Yeah, that's
Courtney.
a real name. Courtney Whitmore. And Courtney is like packing up, and they're doing an acoustic version of Hanson's Bop. I'm just like, I love this show. Fuck yeah. Like the music was all. I think there was like one song I wasn't in love with throughout the entire episode, but like the music was hitting every note. I'm just like, yes.
It can't be understated. Like I saw somebody say that this was a blend of I forgot what else they used, but it was a blend of Smallville and something else, and it can't be understated just how important music, like outright songs and like scores, are to shows and movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know movies, but specifically with shows like Smallville hit that really well. Like some of my favorite episodes, like ended with like an actual song. I mean, how can you not get? I mean, eventually just succumb to the somebody say, but
I still have that on my Zune. Yes, I still have a Zune.
And also what they had to do was also kind of encapsulate like the music, correlate the music with the time frame that this show is in, because this isn't 2020. So
right, I think it starts in 2005.
Yeah,
it
somewhere
was
around there.
12 or 15 years prior, I think, is the whole shtick. But,
Yep.
well, I don't even think we got an actual year. I think they just say that it was like 13 years before or something like that. Because she's, or 10 years, because she's 5 in the beginning of the episode, and then she's 15 when the show starts.
Yeah.
So 10 years prior to whenever this is. So the music's already fantastic. Yet Hanson and Bruce Springsteen were right after each other. Gotta love it. Courtney Whitmore is very much a real character. Like I know girls who are just like that, or I should say in some respects, new girls who are just like that. The whole, she wants to join the gymnastics team, and the lady's like, why don't you join cheerleading instead? It's a good way to meet boys. And like her face is like, the fuck, and I just thought that was great. I do have a concern that they're gonna retcon her into not being exactly as the character's supposed to be. I hope that's not the case, but you never do know with these shows and how they present characters. So like that's my big concern, is that we might get some kind of like fake out or twist in the development of who she is as a character, and I don't want that, because this character is one of my favorites and I like her for what she is. So I hope we don't go down that route. But Courtney as a character is entirely lovable. She's precocious, she's fierce, and I don't want to ruin anything or spoil anything, but like people are going to be like, well, you see how she was treated in high school by all those teachers. All those teachers are obviously not just teachers. Like, y'all know that. So like I understood completely, like when she got in someone's face, all of a sudden that one teacher grabs her. I'm like, ooh, you were the villain from the start of the show. Ooh.
Oh crap! You know what this reminds me of?
What?
I'm Major Pain, Royal Pain, very fucking Royal Pain. So much sky high vibes in this show, like specifically, like that whole faculty, it's like straight Royal Pain.
Yep. I was about to say that it feels like a show from, or like a movie from like 2000 or like 1995, like when people would make these awesome ass TV shows and movies without like without any concerns about anything else. Like it just existed. That's very excuse me. That's very much how I feel about this movie, this TV show. I mean, like it's not. It doesn't have the same kind of vibe that we've gotten from all these other shows in the last 10 years. It does have its own feel to it, and I think that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
So we meet Pat Dugan. He's Stripesy, and he has the cosmic wand, the cosmic staff. The one thing I will say, I do have concerns about them changing the character at all. We'll see what happens with that. But my other kind of gripe was Stargirl didn't get the cosmic staff right away. She got this Star-Spangled Belt, I think is what it was called. And she got the name Stargirl because she could projectile throw energy stars from her belt. Like she would like do like some kind of like whipping motion with her arm, and the stars would come out from the front of the belt, and she would use them. And I thought that would have been a better way to start the series for the first season, with the end of the season going to her getting the staff in the final episode. I thought that would have been a better way of doing the arc and building up to the staff. But they decided to just forego what the belt is, because the belt is actually what gives her the ability for flight. But I mean, it's just such a nerd thing to bitch about. So I'm not even gonna hold it against the show.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, it fits perfectly because again, you're familiar with the comics and that character, have loved it for as long as it's been in existence. But I definitely like the direction that they went with the staff, and I mean, the staff itself is a character of its own, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reminds me, like I said, I mean, even we talked about it last week, what they did with Cruz's ring, giving this on that obviously without divorce. The staff looks gorgeous. And I like the fact, much like speaking of Green Lanterns, that she basically got chose by the staff.
Mm-hmm.
That whole deal, and just, I think like the perfect combination. You'll get to it, like the mix of like stuff that makes the staff special with the physical abilities that make her special, and the combination that kind of brings it to life.
I think what I really liked about the first episode was that they didn't try to present her as this badass. Like, she's goofing around with the staff, she's doing her little gymnastics stuff. But the first moment she has to go up against the villain, she gets her ass kicked, and if it wasn't for the staff being sentient, she would have gotten far worse. And then she goes up against her first villain, and she barely gets away. She runs away, and that's when Stripesy shows up in his brand new outfit. And he goes, Courtney, I told you that staff was dangerous. What I wish he would have said, as soon as Stripes lands, and Courtney sees him and she does, I wish Pat Dugan would have said, Courtney, you're grounded. Because it would have been so much more tongue in cheek. And this show is definitely, living in that Star Kid. Remember Star Kid? Do you ever see Star Kid?
You talking about with the thing with the suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would very much be in the vein of something like Star Kid, where like the stepdad is in a metallic, battle suit and he grounds the main character. Like that's very Kurt Russell Sky High. We'll just tell your mother that I took away your Xbox. I don't have an Xbox. You do now.
Yeah, it's fun. Like that's another one of my favorite things about the show is their dynamic and just the way Luke Wilson plays that character. And both of them really, because they have to present so many different facets, or they had to present so many different facets of those characters in that first episode without us having like a deep dive into who they are. I mean, these are their introductions. But like you said, Courtney is like adorable. She's precocious. She's tenacious. She has a bit of trepidation in certain areas. She's just a lot of different things. I mean, and when you go from her giving Pat that attitude in the beginning, and then her having to walk home from school, and you just see her melt when she sees that father and daughter in the window, stuff like that sets her apart. Then that sit-down conversation that she has with him outside on the porch, and you juxtapose that to how cold she was with him in the car on the way to school, and he was genuinely trying to open up because he didn't really probably get to grieve properly for when he lost the JSA. Like he probably had to pack up, go into hiding or whatever. And him, that's probably one of the few times he got to really open up to somebody, because he clearly hasn't told his wife. So I'm gonna sit down and be like, I've lost friends too, and it's hard and stuff. So I just kudos to those actors, because it's not easy to pull that off. In the first episode.
Luke Wilson, I think, I said before that I had concerns about him in the show. I forgot he was in a movie with, was it, who the fuck was it with? Drew Barrymore, where she was like a pregnant waitress and he was like some like wannabe helicopter pilot. And he was just like this down home, golly gosh gee Willikers kind of character. And I forgot he played that character. Because watching him in this role, that's immediately the character I thought of, and I just thought to myself, damn, that's a good pick for this kind of presentation. He's a good guy. He doesn't do anything too outlandish. He goes to small-town American malt shops for cheeseburgers and chocolate shakes, cholesterol and diabetes. He's just a decent dude.
Yeah, he kills his kids to have a super-duper day.
Right? Like... You have a super duper, and his son is hilarious. I fucking love his son. Oh my god. So Pat, what do you think of the area? Don't call me Pat. Call me Dad. But Courtney gets to call you Pat, and he just fucking stares at his kid. So it's gonna be interesting to see, like, why is Pat single? Why does Pat have a son? How did those two come together? And why does his son like to melt marshmallows and feed them to dogs?
Yeah, I'm like, why is he melting marsh? Like me and Chad are all down for a s'more.
Oh yeah.
And also, of course, our love of s'mores will only evolve to bigger heights after Sandlot.
Well, s'more what? A s'more. How can I have more of anything if I don't know what I'm having?
First you toast the mellow, then the ground. I love it. But yeah, like you said, that dorky quality. It's genuine. It shines through. He met clearly a guy who could have starred in the Dodgeball movie. The guy that owns the gym.
Come by. That's not a suggestion.
Goddamn hard pitch selling a-hole.
I'm sorry, what was your gym called? The Global Gym?
Oh man, yeah, they're all adorable. It's gonna be interesting seeing that relationship between like her and like you said, her son, because there isn't one right now. Like the whole thing about relationship with Amy Smart, because she's completely in the dark, and now they both going to having to keep the secret. But she's also genuine. She loves her daughter, but she's completely in love with Pat, and she kind of wants them to kind of meet in the middle. So now there's really going to be this awkward tension / non-tension, maybe forced tension to keep up the facade. Because if they get too chummy too quick, then she's going to be kind of onto them.
Can I just say that the show kicked me in the dick so hard in that second scene, like after the fight scene when the JSA died, and then they cut over to Amy Smart. She's going out to work as a waitress on Christmas Eve, and you got little 5-year-old Courtney. She's standing in the window, and Amy Smart's character says something to the effect like, "You're gonna hang out with your good friend who's also a little 5-year-old and her mom or sister or whatever she was, but don't stay up too late." And little Courtney goes, "But I'm waiting up for Dad." I'm just like, who would leave her waiting for him at Christmas Eve? That dick.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. And then watching her look out the window when she was older, and then how they did like with the stars aligned when she like this. I mean, there's some really great shots in this first ep too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. This was well shot thematically, and I love how they go to this. Dude, listen, I want to go to a town of like 1,000, 2,000 people and just like live this life where like downtown is like 12 stores long. Like, I would love that. And they're all just saying hi to everyone. I would love that. It's like, it's just a great show. I do have one genuine gripe, though. This really felt like a well-done pilot. It clicked on all cylinders, but there was one thing that I felt really didn't land like they intended to. The relationship between Starman and Pat at the start of the episode was trash. And I understand that they had, I want to call him Jeff Winger because that's who he played in Community, Joel McHale. I know they had Joel McHale as Starman, and one of his big gets in Hollywood is that he does the role who's very dry and sarcastic. That's his shtick. And they clearly wrote lines for Starman to be dry and sarcastic. But it didn't come across as very funny, and it came off as more mean-spirited. And it really didn't fit the tone of not just that scene, but the rest of the show. It kind of felt like that entire last scene with Starman, where he's dying, was almost shot and directed by a different director, because it was just such a juxtaposition to the rest of the show and the rest of the way it was presented. And a reviewer I was looking up even said that it felt very mean-spirited. And considering how loyal Pat was, especially when Pat reveals that he was a driver for Sylvester's family, because that's Sylvester Pembrin, I think. Pembrin. It's a white ass. Pemberton. It's a very white name. Mr. Pemberton. Would you like any Grey Poupon? Poor people. Sylvester Pemberton, had a driver, and it was Pat Dugan. They became very close, and they became Starboy and Stripesy, I think is what it was called, or Star Spangled Kid and Stripesy. And eventually he got the Cosmic Staff, and he says and he kept me along. He brought me with him to the JSA. And I was just some dude in a mask. But then what we see with him at the end of Sylvester Pemberton's life is a very cold, very awful demeanor, and it was done for laughs. I know that because that's who Joel McHale is. You don't bring in Samuel L. Jackson to voice a Princess Fairy who doesn't say motherfucker, right? Like you don't do that. You don't bring in a porn star to not get naked. There are just certain things that when you bring someone in, that's what they're brought in for, and Joel McHale is brought in to be a sarcastic douchebag. But considering how nice Pat Dugan was, it really felt more bullying, and like that Sylvester Pemberton wasn't really good friends with him after all. So if you had just cut out that entire sequence where he's like, make sure the staff goes someplace, and he goes, it'd be an honor to carry it, and then he's like, no, not you, anyone but you. If you just cut out that entire sequence and just have him go, make sure the staff finds, a good place, and then you cut to him saying you were a really good friend and then passing away, that scene would have worked a hell of a lot better. But that's not the way they went.
I mean, you're right about that. But really, and I was going to talk about this scene next anyway, but I really like that scene, going back to that porch scene, when she basically was kind of, because she was like, oh, Stripesy, like what were you like? Their
mascot.
What was that? But what was old boy's name from The Punisher? That he kidnapped and hit him with the popsicle.
Oh yeah. I forgot his name, but he's the lackey, and he's like, yeah, it's gonna
He's
burn
the
so hard, it's gonna feel ice cold.
yeah, but the Saints lackey, and that's
Yes.
how it came off. It was very refreshing because a lot of times, like, we think we're going through stuff, or we think stuff is so bad in our lives than they actually are because of how we perceive it or how we allow other people to perceive it. So when he was going back and forth with it, she was like you didn't even matter. You're not even in the photo. He's like, no, I was important. I took the photo.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to do these guys laundry and tag along with them. Like it's just a beautiful moment to show like you define the importance and the joy and the love that you have for your station in life, not somebody else. So, but again, that would have came off even more better had you not had that scene basically trying to placate him down like he was just somebody that randomly rescued him off the street,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to somebody that had literally been with him since he was the Star Spangled Kid.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like you said, he ran it into the ground a little bit with the anybody but you. Now, even if they had to leave that in there doing it a second time, it was like, okay, all right, yeah. See those grits over there? Yeah, they're overcooked.
You're overcooking my grits, coach. It would even have been better if you had said, it's something to the effect like, you can't because the staff hasn't picked you.
Yeah.
Like that would have been fine too, but it felt almost bullying, and I thought that was kind of a dick move. And the idea of Pat Dugan being the house mom, while not accurate in the comics, the JSA did have a house mom, and she was the original Red Tornado back in the '40s, and the whole shtick was like, she may. I think it was in one of the Jeff Johns JSA comics. The granddaughter of the woman, and I forget who she ends up being the granddaughter. I think she may have been Liberty Bell. I think the AKA Jesse Quick. I forget, but she pretty much lambasts the fact like I'm being recruited, but all my no, she was the new she was the new Cyclone. That's what she was. She was the Cyclone. She had hurricane powers. But she was like, when they were recruiting for the JSA, I think like Alan Scott or Jay Garrick says to her like, you're every bit as important to this family as all the other legacy people, because at the time in the comics, the JSA were recruiting their family to essentially replace them. So like Jay Garrick, well he already has like 16 flashes, so he didn't count. But like Wildcat recruited his son. Alan Scott was trying to recruit not his children, but like friends of their children. Like you had like the next Hour Man coming in, the next Dr. Midnight, the next Sandman. They're all taking their places where their fathers or friends or whoever once sat, and they were recruiting. I think her name was Red Cyclone or something to that effect. And they were recruiting her, and she was the granddaughter of the original house, the granddaughter of the original house mom. And like I think it was Jay Garrick who's like, your grandmother was such a big component for us, and she's like, well, all she did was cook and clean. And Jay Garrick's like, don't dismiss that kind of support and how we were able to come home to a safe space because of her. Like that was a big deal for us. Your grandmother was a big role, had a big role in the JSA, and she wasn't just some maid for us. She kept us alive. She kept us fed. She kept us healthy. And that, encouraged the granddaughter to eventually take her seat with the JSA as well. And it was a great little scene. And hopefully they don't do this as a fake out and make Dugan look like he was just some hanger-on and how the JSA were just dicks to him. I hope they actually show like that kind of level of appreciation for that kind of, that house mom mentality where, he kept them alive, he kept them safe, he kept them cleaned and fed and made sure that, when they came home, they felt safe. I hope they go with that dynamic for him as a caretaker for the JSA, because that would be such a great callback to the comics.
I mean, even more than that, and speaking of what you just said, like I really hope that they lean into that, because obviously the new recruits are going to be abandoned in a way, or feel abandoned in a way. So for him to kind of be that steward, like, and just going back to everything you said about the house mom and Jay Garrick thing, I mean, that was beautiful. And look, you don't you don't tell a good Batman story if Alfred's not in.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just a man's butler. He's just not. And any good Batman story will clearly show you that. But with this, like he's gonna need. I mean, obviously he's gonna have a specific relationship with Courtney because I don't know how much he's gonna be buying into the whole thing about being or not being Starman's daughter. But obviously these kids are going to be missing pieces of their childhood that he can kind of give them in a sense because he knew their parents firsthand. So not only can he help them train, but he can also give them a piece of themselves. I'm sure that they feel like they're missing because this is very much going to be like a found family type of story.
Now,
So,
that is
you know,
something that I'm curious about because I don't know if these kids are going to be descendants of the JSA. That's going to be something that we're going to have to see because I think the Dr. Midnight we got was white, wasn't he?
oh yeah,
So these
yeah,
might
you're
just
right.
be people taking up the mantle of sorts. But they might be
Yeah.
like the Dr. Midnight and the Thunder. God damn, I was about to say Thundercat.
That's a Wildcat Thunder. He's
the
like, he's like, fan throw.
Chitara. So Wildcat and Star and not Star, Dr. Midnight might just be people who take up the mantle, but our man, he's one of the characters who he does take over for his father. So he might be the son of our man for all we know, or he might not be. Who fucking knows? I am hopeful that we end up getting Liberty Bell at some point, but I don't know if they would use the Jesse Quick storyline because, in essence, in what happened with the JSA is Jesse Quick ends up giving up her speed because her and her family developed the speed formula where it's like a mathematical equation, and as long as they're able to keep the equation in their heads, they can move at an accelerated rate. She ends up giving up her speed powers because it's revealed to be eventually part of the Speed Force to Flash to stop Eobard Thawne or something like that, and she tries to go and reclaim the formula again, but she's unable to do so. But she ends up unlocking super strength instead, and she ends up abandoning Jesse Quick and becoming Liberty Bell. You can do just Liberty Bell as a character, I feel like, without having to do Jesse Quick. But I hope we do get her as well because she ended up being the de facto leader of the new JSA, and I thought that would be a great idea to go with. But I also am wondering, like, because I didn't see Green Lantern in any of this. Did you?
No, and there's another character that I didn't necessarily see. Oh, we saw Wildcat, we saw Iron Man. Um, Anybody else we saw was kind of basically a villain. But yeah, we basically saw who we will be getting in the promotional photos for now, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, they didn't have a Green Lantern. Um, Obviously, it can be done, but I don't know how much they're already stretching the special effects
Well, we saw
budget.
Dr. Midnight because he was the first one to die. Then our
Yeah,
man died. Then we saw Wildcat dead when he got blown out of the room. And then, of course, Starman died. But we also saw Jay Garrick's helmet, but not Jay Garrick. So we still have like 8 characters unaccounted for in the JSA. Like Atom Smasher's not there. Hawkman wasn't there. Green Lantern wasn't there. Alan Scott. And like you don't even need to give me Green Lantern. You can just give me Alan Scott. Like that would be fine. Like he could be like, I gave up my ring or I exhausted my powers, depending on which version of Alan Scott you want, because he's both been a Green Lantern and also the Sentinel, who was
exactly.
basically Green Lantern without a power ring.
Yeah, and for me, I'm waiting on this guy because he's always been one of my favorites. And after I saw this fan art, definitely.
I would love to see Alan Scott because I think he's the only major character to not actually appear in a live action series of any circumstance. We didn't see Doctor Fate either. That's a good pickup. I'm not digging the huge fucking belt though. What is that? A fanny pack? What is he? A wrestler in 1994?
Did you take that from Leonidas? Leonidas.
Leonidas. I like Doctor Fate, and that's a great helmet. And the helmet's always been the problem. Like, get the helmet right. The helmet's a hard thing to get right. But when you think of like the JSA, there's so many characters we didn't see die. So there's always a possibility that we do get cameos along the way. But I would prefer it to be just the kids and Pat with these guys like doing like we've talked about the Ultimate Fighter before. Just have like the surviving JSA members, if there are any, do like guest coaching spots where they show up like once a week and try to help the kids out. And they always say the same thing. Oh, the JSA died, and my desire to fight crime died with it. Like, for like 12 fucking episodes straight. Like, new character shows up, say the exact same thing. And you could even do like a running gag where the kids are like, so, Adam Smasher, why did you give up crime fighting? And then they all like mouth along to him going, when the JSA died, my desire to fight crime died with it. Because it's just like it becomes a running gag to them. Like that would be funny.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Then they could, a favorite trope of these type of things, a training montage. Like have these kids, if they're getting frustrated with getting basically dog walked by these adults, they could kind of like go off and, like you said, seek out, their forefathers, if you will, with these mantles, and have them basically do like what they did in Disney's Hercules, where you kind of forced Phil to train him.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, and then do like a little training montage and be like, I think you're ready, kid, type of deal. And obviously Courtney would stay behind with Stripes and kind of train with him in the suit because Starman's gone. But I think that'll be something like real cool because everybody's clearly not, well, we know everybody's not dead on one side. But yeah, that'll be some like really cool exploration because he can tell them all day about the person who did their mantle and how they did their powers, but they have to come into that stuff on their own.
Mm-hmm. So we're obviously excited for the next episode. We'll see how it goes. I have nothing more to say about this episode, though. Do you?
No, I loved it. Looking forward to it. Shout out to what his name is, Icicle. It looks like a real boss. And it's cool. It's cool to see because we kind of got we had Icicle Jr. in Smallville. So yeah,
that's right. Oh, what a putz. Speaking of the JSA report, Warner Brothers planning JSA film if Black Adam does well. I would very much be down for a JSA film, especially if we finally get Alan Scott. I think the one character you could definitely do for Stargirl that I think would be a lot of fun would be a Sandman. He is someone who, whenever he dreams, has nightmares of future possible crimes. And he will often at times refuse to sleep because when he dreams, he essentially loses the memory of the previous dream. So until he can save the person he dreams about, he tries not to sleep. And, it's very much one of those things where it's a great power for a superhero, but it is also incredibly soul-sucking and physically demanding and, very hard to deal with. And it's a great kind of dark character, but he also has a lot of optimism about himself, and he knows what he has to do, and he strives to do it. That'd be a great character to add into a JSA film or Stargirl TV show. So I'd be down for it. The new report suggests yes. Sorry, go on.
I feel like you told a similar sentiment for the proper representation of Citizen Steel.
Yeah, the thing I love about Jeff Johns' run on JSA, he made the characters very X-Men 90s like, where everyone has a great superpower, but it comes with some daunting, deadly, unfortunate kind of secondary result. Like with Citizen Steel, his grandfather or his father was actually there's like 1,000 of them. They're all they're like the military brat family. He's like an Ohio State running back or linebacker or quarterback, and he blows out his knee. And I think his name's like Captain Nazi. What a name for a villain. He's got this metallic covering all over him, and a bunch of the Fourth Reich attack Commander Steele's family because they're trying to kill off all of the second, third, and fourth generation of the JSA. And Hawkman shows up to fight these dudes, but he's outnumbered 4-1. And the dude ends up taking his crutch, the end of it, the rubbery end breaks off, and he ends up jabbing his crutch into the throat of Captain Nazi or whatever his name is, and he ends up puncturing his throat, and he just goos all over Citizen Steel, and it blends into his skin. And what ends up happening is after he heals, the stuff has melded into his body, and now he has no physical contact in his limbs. He has no feeling, so he has no idea how to adjust the textile's strength. So if he turns the doorknob, you and I would know that we have to turn so hard to get it to open. He would end up just snapping it off because he doesn't understand anything like resistance. So they end up having to put him in a steel constraint suit that is constantly hardening around him, so that he's forced to have to move to make the suit actually, like, to actually, he forces himself to have to move within the suit so that it doesn't lock up and restrain him. But in doing so, he's able to hold back his strength. And the entire arc of his introduction, like, he's sitting there looking at, like, the only surviving members of his family. There's like 140 of them, and now there's only like 16, and they're all little kids. And he says, like, I can't hug my family. And they end up giving him the suit, and he goes in there, and he's able to hug his little family again. And, like, for the first time, like, in his entire arc, he smiled because while he can't feel them, he can feel the emotion. And that would have been such a better idea for the fucking character on the show. But no, instead we just, he's Colossus now. Okay. Fuck off. The JSA writing, like, Marcus, I swear to God, if I can find these trade paperbacks for you, I'll fucking send them to you because they're that good. They deserve to be read. They're amazing. Like, all the characters that Jeff Johns created for the secondary run of the JSA in the mid to early 2000s were amazing. Oh, I fucking love it. Like, Tomcat is a werecat, but he hates violence. So his dad's like, dad's a former boxer. Come on, son, fight me. He's like, I really don't do that. And he goes, what do you mean you don't do that? You can turn into a goddamn werecat. He goes, yeah, but I really don't do that. It's just fucking great, man. Oh, I love it. I'm going to reread these. Plus, we also got Mr. Terrific in the JSA. I wish Arrow would have done a better job with him, but what are you going to do? You also got a dude who has a genie. Marcus, do you remember the shot from Stargirl where she's looking at the photo and there's that, like, kind of weird electric dude in the back right of the photo?
Yeah.
That's a genie.
Oh, wow.
And I forget, he's not really brought in a lot because he was an original JSA character, and I got into the series when they were doing more of the newer characters. I forget his name, but he's a genie to a young black kid who ends up finding, like, a magical pen or something like that. And, like, he summons the genie, and I'm like, this is, like, one of the best concepts in comics. The kid with the superhero entity. It's basically a kid version of I Dream of Genie. So I would like to see that in JSA. That'd be a great fucking idea for JSA or Stargirl, especially Stargirl, because the kid's, like, in his teens, I think. But anyway, the report goes on to say, according to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson himself, Black Adam is set to feature the big screen debut of the JSA. Citing an anonymous inside source, the Illuminati now claims that the Warner Brothers is evaluating the original superhero team for their very own feature film. The outlet says a new film franchise that puts the JSA front and center hinges on the critical, commercial, and fan reception towards the team when they appear in Black Adam later on in 2021. However, bear in mind that even if this report is accurate, it does not mean a JSA movie is in active development. In fact, I'm sorry, I said Illuminati, it's Illuminati. Itself says that such a claim would be an exaggeration, as the prospective film does not currently have any cast or crew members attached to it. Nevertheless, the outlet reiterates that Warner Brothers is considering what this property as an option as the studio continues to move forward with Black Adam. I'll say this, considering how accurate the DC reports have been about, the Snyder Cut existing, the executives watching it, and everyone's like, oh, these are just bullshit rumors. I'm much more inclined to believe these rumors than I would have been a year ago. So, 1, JSA movie needs to happen. 2, JSA needs to happen. 3, JSA movie needs to happen. I don't think I need to have anything more I need to say about that. Marcus, I would ask you, do you want to see a JSA movie? But I already know your answer is going to be yes.
My man.
My man. Speaking of my man, let's talk about Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut. It is happening. It's the reels. It's the reels of deals. It's happening. Marcus, Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut is happening. I am totally excited, if I can just get things to work properly. I think this is going to be a great fucking thing. I've been waiting so long for this to exist, and now that it finally has, I'm over the moon. I really am. I think this is going to be a great idea. I think it's going to do very well. I think fans are going to get their buck. I think everyone's involved is going to see what this movie should have been. And I think when it's all said and done, people are going to have a much more positive view on the Justice League as a whole and a much more negative thought on Joss Whedon as a whole.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that because I saw some goofs, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course. But I seen some people like this kind of almost spits in the face of Josh Whedon. I mean, it's basically saying like his cut's not good enough. If
It's
you
not.
call that film a film, then you are part of that problem and several others that have been plaguing this community. But
This community.
yeah, this community, the comic book community, right? But
Fuck that community.
we'll get to you in a second. But yeah, man, just about damn time, man. It just feels like when you see all the support, not just from fans, but stuff that's been coming out from actors and directors and just a lot of people in the industry. This isn't like false, like gaslighting, whatever, in terms of they're trying to gas it up. These people, and I think it means more coming from a lot of these industry folks because they probably know what it means to have their creative liberties and freedoms and everything else kind of not only being incumbent upon but taken away. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a particular point that gets really overlooked, and I would imagine I know why people don't want to speak on this very sensitive thing, but people got to realize like a big part of this is the fact that he did lose his daughter in the midst of all this.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, I mean, you gotta sit back because I was thinking about like you gotta sit back and at least if they don't do anything else, give this woman and this man who are married props for just even wanting to come back to this and even being in good spirits at all because they could completely want to wash their hands or disassociate with it because they don't want to be reminded of the time they had to go through that in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to kind of want to, finally finish this and everything, I would imagine, and obviously I have no clue and I don't know these people, but I would imagine this kind of is bringing some level of closure in a way that a lot of people probably couldn't understand. Not just for the movie that he never fully got to see brought to light, but just on a situation that I wish upon nobody in general. So with all the like you said, the support, a lot of which has gone to suicide prevention, and the foundation that Zack has been supporting and everything, which has also been beautiful to see, which a lot of people don't talk about, like they just been bitching about a movie for going on 3 or 4 years. Like a lot of these people have 100% backed him when it's come to that tragedy. So with this, like I said, it feels like real liberating to finally be getting this. We constantly big up BVS, um, and specifically the Ultimate Cut because it just we get that movie isn't everybody's cup of tea, but that movie just hits so many more deeper things than what's seen on the surface. So for him to do what he did with that, like only imagine what he's gonna do with Justice League and guys like Ray Fisher. God bless his heart, he was crying. Kind of got choked up talking about like just what everything has meant for the two of them in light of everything going on with the daughter. And
Mm-hmm.
he said a long time ago, like Zack shot enough footage for 2 films.
Oh, I hope we get fucking 4 hours of Justice League. I ain't even
For
I
two
ain't even kidding. I will. Oh my god.
for 2 films, and this isn't even finished. So imagine him closing that stuff out. Everything that he's dropped that that has just looked great, and these are just still photos or concepts, like actors talking about stuff they shot that we did get. I mean, just look at the trailer. Like the best thing to me about Aquaman, one of the best things, because I love that movie, was everything I saw in the trailer, I saw in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even say that about that damn Josh Whedon cut.
Nope.
So just everything that these act. I mean, Cyborg getting more shine, obviously more stuff with Batman. Um, even Syrian Hines has come out and talked about like he hope people get to see what he did because he did far more than what we saw. And obviously we're gonna be get stuff to Dark Side, which I'm kind of salivating at the bit about because this is our first time getting him in this form. So I'm really just happy for Zack, man. Like this to me, and I tweeted this today. This has always been about more than that than just a movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad that he's getting you know justice in a lot of ways, not just for this film, but just the fans are getting justice. He's getting justice, and creatives in general. So
Well, depending on how much money this movie gets, we could get an entire redesign of Steppenwolf for all we know.
yeah,
I'd be fine with that.
he designed a Steppenwolf, whatever was supposed to really happen with Superman.
That's gonna be interesting. Oh, this is gonna be an interesting movie. Oh, it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. We already talked about it before, real briefly. Darkseid will be in the film, so that should be interesting. How he's presented, how he's portrayed is going to be, I don't know. So many things are up in the air with this, and honestly, I don't want too many answers. I just want to watch the goddamn cut. Now, I will say this: I think our friends at Blurds tweeted this out. I think, or they retweeted it. David Ayers did Suicide Squad. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about Ayers getting his own cut of Suicide Squad because of his support of the original film for however long. If I remember correctly, they had a director change as well, or they had like substantial recuts to it, I think.
Yeah, substantial recuts and a lot of studio interference with that movie, I think. So
My concern with that is I'm not very big on David Ayers as a director as I am Zack Snyder. Let me see what David Ayers has done because that might change my mind. David Ayers. Air, under my air umbrella. Ella. E, E. Suicide. There it is. Here you go. Suicide Squad. Director, James Gunn. That's not right. That's the 2021. I don't want that one. I want the one before. Let's see. There we go. David Ayer. Charles Roven. Richard Suckle produced it. Written by David Ayer. What did David Ayer do? He's done Fast and Furious, Training Day, Harsh Time, Street Kings, End of Watch, Sabotage, Fury, Suicide Squad, and Brights. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say David Ayer did the best he could because most of these films are trash. End of Watch should have been a lot better than what it was. Street Kings was only funny, and it wasn't supposed to be because of Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker's a god. Sabotage was with Arnold Schwarzenegger in his 60s. Training Day was pretty good, but I feel like Training Day is like the only one of his films that I could say is actually really good. He co-wrote. He only wrote Training Day. He didn't even direct it. Marcus, are you a fan of Harsh Time, Street Kings, End of Watch, Sabotage, or Bright?
yeah, it's funny because I've either not seen a lot of those except Bright, or I've seen a couple, forgot about them, and the last thing I saw of his was Bright. Um, when it comes to David Ayer, I like a lot of his concepts, and I think a lot of times um, they're bold in theory and not necessarily achieved fully in execution. But I do like his a certain style he puts on things and the level of depth that he tries to put into things. So um, yeah, I mean, I would definitely be interested in seeing, if for nothing else, than to getting more Leto
Mm-hmm.
of the, because I think he got severely um, cut out of the movie. Um, but yeah, I mean, more so than I mean, I'm kind of definitely with you. I'm more of a Snyder fan than I am Air. A lot of it has to do with I am more familiar with Snyder's work, but just like Snyder has, just that quality where he's a director that has a stamp that he puts on his films. Um, Much like Michael Bay, not necessarily in the positive sense over there, but he definitely has his own swag, if you will, that he applies to film that makes them kind of indistinguishable from other films. So I think, somebody like Ayers is getting there, but I would like to see it just so he can get some satisfaction because he takes a lot of crap online too. Like I saw something, I forgot what movie or film it was, but they tried to insinuate that, of course, he's objectifying women to over sexualize them, and then like that wasn't even a movie that he did, and then it's just like, you're like, this kind of stuff hurts. Like, why would you say something like this? So aside from those douche nozzles, it would be cool to see like him, who's also been a supporter of Snyder, kind of get some doing that way.
I think if the Justice League Snyder Cut does well, there should be room for that conversation with David Ayer. But I feel like with Zack Snyder, specifically, if it wasn't for how good Dawn of Justice ended up being with the extended cut, I don't think there would have been as much fervor and fan support for Justice League without Dawn of Justice being as good as it was. I don't think David Ayers has that background, though, to have that kind of fervent fan support to demand the Ayer cut. Now, if he gets one, I'll watch it because I would like to see what he intended for it. But just looking at the movies he's written and directed, I'm not a big fan. Like, all right, Training Day was good, but if you look at like Bright or, End of Watch or what was it, Fast and the Furious, they're not exactly cinematic masterpieces. So I'm not as enthusiastic to see what his original vision could have been because I'm not a big fan of his usual visions to begin with. That's like saying, this is the best calamari in town. Cool, it's still octopus. I ain't eating it.
Yeah, Chad's like, this is how COVID started. All this
No, my theory for how COVID started, pineapple on pizza. Fucking heathens.
We've come full circle.
Look what you've done. That's all the news that I think is relevant for the week. So I want to talk real briefly about the Addams Family from last year because I decided to go on a movie watching marathon over the last few days. I watched Sonic. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. Donut Lord was great. Love that. Talked about it on last week's GameCorp. So if you want to check that out, it's up on the website. Go check it out. We reviewed Sonic and Eternal Champions, the video game. So what I'll say about the Addams Family is it would have worked better as a TV show. The idea of the Addamses and their extended family moving into a suburbia town would be great fucking humor for a live action idea, especially with how they're all intermingling with one another. The Addamses as a family and the extended family, hilarious. The character designs are creepy as fuck and more in line with the original design of the 1930s comic or 1920s comic. I forget when it came out. So I like that. The casting was all fairly good, I would say, with the lone exception being for Uncle Fester. They casted, what's his name? He did, God damn it. Now I gotta look it up. Look what you made me do, Marcus. Look what you made me do. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Will Forte, I think is who it is. Let me just double check. Nick Kroll. Nick Kroll plays Fester, and I thought that was a real swing and a miss. Oscar Isaacs is Gomez. He was pretty good. Charlize Theron was a solid. Morticia. Chloe Grace Moretz was a great Wednesday. Finn Wolfhard was a solid Pugsley, but I don't think Pugsley was given a lot. But he did have a pretty important kind of moment at the end of the movie that paid off real nicely. One of the complaints I had about Scoob was they brought in Tracy Morgan to play Captain Caveman, and Captain Caveman wasn't even Captain Caveman at that point. It was just Tracy Morgan, and I hate that shit. Like, we're here to see the character, not Tracy Morgan. So when I saw that Snoop Dogg was going to be Cousin It, I was genuinely afraid that he was going to be fucking Snoop Dogg. But no. In fact, they gave him the Cousin It voice, and they kind of give him more of a Snoop Dogg pimp vibe, which I thought was funny. Like, he rolls up to drop it like it's hot or pop it like it's hot, and he's got like a little pimp cane and like a little bowler hat. I'm like, all right, this is a different take on Cousin Nick, but I'm definitely for it. It's great. It's a solid take, and the It voice that they used was really kind of melodically charming. Like, it wasn't the that you usually hear. It's more kind of electronic in how it was produced, and I thought that was a really great thing. I don't know if they just took Snoop Dogg saying lines and then like reversed it and changed the pitch or what, but I thought it was great that they were able to do it. They also had a lot of great talent, like Catherine O'Hara, the mom from Home Alone. She was in this. So was Allison Janney and Martin Short. Jennifer Lewis was in this as well. So was who was it? Titus Burgess, who was in The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. So overall, I really liked the casting. I thought it was a solid look, and the story was pretty solid. Where Wednesday Addams finds a friend and learns about depression. So, it was solid. I understand some of the critiques about it because at times I thought it wasn't as funny as it could have been. But part of the appeal and charm I thought for the Addams Family and for similar shows and movies like The Munsters isn't just the humor, but the vibe and the atmosphere that it produces, that kind of tone that it sets, and the Addams Family tone was set immediately and early with the movie, and it also gave them a backstory, like why they came to this one place and where they came from, and the best place is like we need to go to the one place that's dark, desolate, and and no one likes and everyone hates it, and the worst place in the world. And they cut to a sign in New Jersey, and I'm like, yes, fuck New Jersey. So there was a lot of charm to this, a lot of good things with this movie, and it made a lot of money. So hopefully it does get a sequel. But I would definitely work on the script for the next one because I think they could do a bit better should there be a sequel. In terms of a sequel is scheduled to be released next year in 2021. So work on this on the script, make it a little bit more funny, and lean more into the Addams Family mythos and the gags, and I think you'll be fine for a sequel. This was a great starting point, and if they bring back the entire voice cast, I think, well, with the exception of Nick Kroll, I think you'll be well off. By the by, I love that Lurch is just this giant psychopath that's just like completely like unable to like resist Morticia's commands, and he just fucking does everything she says. Oh, that was just fucking great. And I love that they gave I can't remember his name. Thing, the hand. They gave Thing the hand a watch with an eye on it to actually like make it like look like he knew where he was looking. And I was like that somehow makes this somehow less and more creepy. So kudos to that. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and I would like to see more of it. But definitely, I can understand some of the reservations that some people had with the original, with this version of it. But I am also very interested to see what they can do with a more focused script. So, yeah. Plus, it was cool to see Pugsley try to fucking sword fight people. Love that little fucker. But we also both watched Scoob this week. The Scoob just came out last Friday. I think it was last Friday. Marcus, did you finish watching Scoob?
Yeah, I dug it. It's funny because I was thinking about a lot of things that as you was talking about Scoob, and um, very much how they deal with Sonic. Obviously, Sonic was live action, but like all three of these movies did a great job of playing into like the entirety of the mythos behind these properties
Mm-hmm.
and integrating it into everything, and playing like I saw some stuff when it came to school. Like a lot of people kind of giving it backlash because they didn't bring in the original voice cast.
Well, they're like
Um,
80.
yeah, yeah. I think one person tweeted. I think it was either Velma or the Daphne voice actor. They was like, I can't watch it because it's hard to see like the character talk and it not be my voice, which I can understand from a certain perspective, but it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people. I just want to see a good executed movie
Mm-hmm.
and kind of get over the voice early, unless it's something egregious. Like you're saying, somebody like Tracy Morgan, his voice and his cadence in his voice stands out so much more than anybody else. Um, but I got over that fairly quickly and just appreciated all them playing with some of the nuances and like you said mythos of the story over the years with like how those two came together and the naming and how the group got formed and everything and trying to turn it into legit business. Like it's so much stuff that they played with and then brought into a modernized time like with Sonic and kind of saying like what you're talking about with Adam's Family, like they brought in like the classic stuff and also kept it modern enough to where like the dialogue was smart
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways where it was very new but it wasn't trying to be like too far ahead of the curve. So I definitely Doug, what did you think?
So I do have issues with this. One, I'm not a Tracy Morgan guy. I find his nasally voice to be problematic when he's live acting, but when that's all you hear, and you don't even get to see him act, and you just hear the voice. You're just like, get out of my ear. So I am not a fan of that. I did like that they brought over. Well, I'll that's the thing I'll like. Well, we'll get to what I liked. I don't like Will Forte at all. Same thing with Tracy Morgan, but instead of it being more nasally, Will Forte's voice is far more whiny. And I thought bringing back Matthew Lillard was going to be the best idea because he's such a beloved character, beloved actor for the character, and he's young enough to do the role. And I think the other thing that I think I didn't like, especially and probably the biggest, was the original trailer and promotional material was see Scoob and Shaggy as kids, and I was like, ooh, a modern doing of a pup named Scooby Doo. I'm here for that. I'm all in on that. But it ended up being just another kind of we're 18, 19-year-old kids and we're running around solving mysteries just like the cartoons. And I'm just like, ugh. I was thinking of a new take. All right, whatever. But those are like, especially the last one, I think those are fair arguments, fair issues. But they weren't big enough to make me hate this movie. But they were big enough to make me a bit disappointed with what we ended up getting because, I was hoping for little Shaggy and little Scooby and little Velma and little, Daphne and little, Fred. But, we only got that for like 10 minutes and whatever. But the things I liked. I love the new Blue Falcon, the young son who takes over for the original Blue Falcon. That was great. Ken Jeong as Dynamut was maybe the best part of the movie for me. I liked that they took, what was her name? Dee Dee Skies, who was not a Blue Falcon character. She's from Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. They took her from that show, which all these shows were different Hanna-Barbera shows, so they're all under the same Universal banner. They took Dee Dee Skies from Captain Caveman and put her with Blue Falcon and Dynamut, which I thought was a great addition. And they had her be played by Kiersey Clemons. And it was great to see her kind of like, while they didn't go into details, that she was trained by the original Blue Falcon. So, like, she's been doing this for a lot of years with Dynamut. And now that the new Blue Falcon is here, played by Mark Wahlberg, you kind of realize that, he's the odd man out. He's not as reliable as the other two. And he's the weak link, but he's also the newest one to the gang, so to speak. So I like that dynamic, and Blue Falcon really had a nice kind of arc throughout this as well, where he's trying to figure out how to be like his father, but not be his father. And I thought that was a great kind of combination story to go alongside the rest of the Scooby Gang. The opening, oh my God, the opening crawl where they reshot the entire the entire original opening sequence of the cartoon in live action, or not live action, but in this CGI was great. Oh, I love that. That was so cool.
Okay.
I like that. One of the biggest gripes I have about the live action is that they made Daphne basically superpowered, essentially, making Fred essentially useless. Because like each character has like their own shtick, but they ended up making Daphne like super badass, and they ended up making Fred just, yeah, I'm Fred. But in this one, they literally say like Daphne's the brains, Fred's the tank, and Daphne's the empath. And like you all have your own unique potentials and characteristics and qualities that make you guys a perfect unit. But without one another, you guys will fall apart. And I like that they didn't try to overdo something that just didn't make sense. Like instead of making Daphne the damsel, they're like, you're very good at understanding people's emotions. I'm like, that is a valuable tool, especially in society. And I'm glad that that's the idea they went with.
Yeah, I love that part because it's keeping them in the same veins they've always been in. It's just perceiving it different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not the wuss of the crew. You're the tech and the brains.
Mm-hmm.
There's a muscle and the one who the gutsy one, and you two are a lot of time. Well, freaking Simon Cowell didn't frame it like this. By the way, that dino scene was hilarious.
That was fantastic.
Freaking performed for him. And they freaking did Shallow. Like this movie was so timely, but not like over timely. But yeah, like just how they like basically they're the wild cards that you never knew you had, but he called them basically the weak links, but obviously the movie would prove otherwise. So like that was really really cool, and then the whole concept of how they came to meet. And I thought it also was a unique thing and not too preachy about just having those kids like bully them towards the right direction. Like, you eat too much candy, you're gonna mess up your mouth, right? You can't get those teeth back. So we're gonna go ahead and save you from this. Bye.
You know, candy causes tooth decay and diabetes, right? Like, wait, are you bullying me into healthy eating? What are you doing? And why are you wearing ICP face paint?
or, or the whole thing, or the great line of like, what you want to become a legitimate business, start paying taxes? Like, what, you never paid your taxes? I handle all of the money. Oh, that's hilarious.
Shaggy and not paying taxes is hilarious. I love the intro. The intro was great. Where Scooby and Shaggy meet each other, and Shaggy has no friends, and he meets little Scoob, and then dude, they resolved my biggest complaint ever. Why is Scooby Snacks named after Scooby? That doesn't make any fucking sense unless you're actually making the snacks for Scooby himself. And they end up flipping it, and instead Scooby Snacks has always been a thing, and Shaggy takes the name of Scooby Snacks to name Scooby. And I love the whole, like, is this your dog? Yes. What's his name? Scooby. Scooby. What's his middle name? Doobie. What's his last name? Doo. Scooby Dooby Doo. Sounds about right.
Between the snack thing and they just didn't make him being able to talk a thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that. It's like I said, they picked everything from the mythos, but what they didn't need, they didn't need, and when what they wanted to call back to, they called back to, but they also did it in a way that made sense after you have how many years of this properties in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they very much had to cherry pick. But by the way, that whole thing about I can't arrest your dog because I have a middle name, that's so 2020.
It is. It really is.
Like, I don't like it, but by the way, shout out to Pacific Blue. Beach Cop.
God, I remember that show. It was on every Monday after Raw. I can't arrest your dog if he has a middle name. I don't like it, but that's the law. He just walks away.
Let's go. Oh, just so good. But yeah, man, it's stuff like that. They really made that movie like just kind of heartwarming in a way. So yeah, that was cool.
I didn't realize that there's a mid-credit scene. I'll have to go back and watch it. The other thing that I really liked about the youngness was after they were getting bullied, all of a sudden they roll up, and they're all shown in like their very them costumes. I forgot what Daphne was. Do you remember what Daphne was? Was she like a princess?
It was a night. Daphne was Wonder Woman, and Velma
was Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, Slytherin." I was like, "Ha!" I didn't get that reference because I didn't watch Harry Potter, but I'm pretty sure it was accurate.
So Fred rolls up as the knight in shining armor, literally. Daphne's wearing a Wonder Woman costume, and Velma's dressed as a Supreme Court justice. And Shaggy's really thankful that they showed up when they did because they chased out the bullies. And he's like, "So who are you supposed to be, Harry Potter?" And she's like, "Ruth Bader Ginsburg." And he's like, "What house is she from? Hufflepuff?" And she's like, "No, she's a Supreme Court justice." And then Shaggy just goes, Slytherin. Because judges and lawyers are trash. That's the joke. Then they end up getting their first ghost case where they end up sneaking into an old house and, they end up solving a mystery and exposing the guy. And I thought that was all really fun and really tongue-in-cheek. I wish we would have gotten more of them as kids, but I'm not complaining at all about them growing up because Gina Rodriguez plays Velma and Amanda Seyfried plays Daphne. And if you know about my naughty fantasies, you know that they involve one of those two women on occasion, especially Amanda Seyfried. So I'm like, yeah. Plus, you got Dick Dastardly of the Wacky Racer showing up with Muttley. Like, what?
This was shout out to what he called them, the runts. What did he call those little runt robots? And how freaking Shaggy and Scooby almost completely stopped them by serving them.
That was that was classic Scooby Doo.
It was like, oh no, we're out of calamari. What? Get it!
And then like the one gets his head knocked off, and they put like the little duster buster on his head, and he ends up like looking more like a little penguin than anything. And then he runs the shop that they get at the end.
Well, yeah, like just the fact that they address. it wasn't a big thing, but they even addressed the whole him calling him Raggy instead of Shaggy, and the whole thing about two two civilians getting attacked by robot baby assassins at a bowling alley is an actual police code in this world. Probably because of all the mysteries and stuff that they've done, more than likely. Brilliant.
And I love that the bowling attendant didn't stop anything to help. She just sat there reading her magazine or whatever it was.
Running.
No running. So Shaggy is called Raggy because Scooby Doo only hears the accurate pronunciation. So like Shaggy's like, say Shaggy, and he's like, Raggy. He goes, no, say Shaggy, and Scooby's like, that's what I'm saying. So Scooby has a speech impediment. Love that. Love that so much. I won't go into big plot spoilers for the end of the film because it is a brand new release, so I want to give people time to check it out. But it's definitely, I think, worth your time. I would say it's as good as Sonic, or maybe just a little bit less. I would say it's a little bit less than Sonic in terms of quality, but a little bit better than Addams Family. But it's definitely worth your time if you're nostalgic or you have like a family movie night, or if you got a thing for cartoon dogs. There's two of them. So like it'll scratch any itch you got.
Yep.
Mark, any final thoughts on Scoob?
No, man, I dug it. I was looking forward to it when that trailer first dropped, and because a lot of time, I mean, and one of the best iterations of Scooby Doo is a pup named Scooby Doo. That song is classic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing that in 2020 we could get like another iteration of Scooby Doo, and it popped the way it has. I think that speaks to and with other stuff that we got into, like that property kind of it has stood the test of time, and it's been around my childhood, and it's just great to see like a new spin that's both like classic and like new age in a way for them to pull this off. Like they could either do another sequel, obviously a sequel to this, which also I feel like this is kind of justice for what we had to kind of sit through with the live action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it serves as like some redemption in a way. But yeah, man, go check it out. I mean, this ain't gonna be the last thing. God knows however long we have to continue being how we are. A lot more stuff is gonna get dropped, like this. So hopefully the content meets the necessity of the times.
I haven't seen the second live action Scooby Doo, but I did like the first one. So
Yeah.
AT&T says on Air Cut, on the Suicide Squad Air Cut, quote, one thing at a time. Basically, that's big tech speak for let's see how this one does first.
Okay. It took you 4 years to get here. Just sit down, relax.
Just mind your business. Just mind your business. All right, well, that's all we got for this week's show. Unless, Marcus, you have anything else you want to add on?
Nope.
All right. Well, then we are done for the night. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check us out at realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdcorp.com. We are on Twitter at NERDCORP, on Instagram at RealNerdCorp. Our WCW this week was Amy Smart, and our wrestler of the week was Falaba. We are, if you want to listen to any of our past wrestling podcasts or last week's ComicCorp or anything else, you can do so by going to the website at realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com, or by going to Podbean at Real Nerd Corp on Podbean, realnerdcorp.podbean.com, or by downloading the Podbean app to your mobile device, searching for Real Nerd Corp, signing up for a free profile, and downloading all of the shows free to your mobile device today. Marcus, you can be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
It's the kid.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, on Twitter at True Penny Show. That's TruePennyShow on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut. That's all we got for you guys this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. And thanks for giving us a chance. For Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porto. Be sure to read more comics, watch more movies, and enjoy the content. And with all that being said, I kick it to Marcus to take us home. Marcus, you're up.
Stay inside me.